The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, April 8th, 2024 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, please join us for the invocation given by Alderman Savage, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. I don't know why I'm standing up. So thank you all. I forgot I was going to do this tonight. May we govern with wisdom, respect, and empathy. Thank you.
Ready to call the roll?
I'm going to do the whole council session standing up today. It's never been done before. No. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Present.
Alderman Pendell Charles?
Here.
Alderman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Shadow Meyer? Present. Alderman Gay? Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The first item on the agenda is the State of the City address delivered by Mayor Gavin Buckley.
I can't believe you guys have come out for the State of the City address. It's so touching. Thank you so much. Thank you. So good evening. You've got 20 minutes of this. Tonight, I'm proud to introduce my 7th City of Annapolis budget as mayor. I'm pleased to report it is a balanced budget with no property tax rate increase. Our fiscal position is strong, and we continue to maintain strong bond ratings and outlooks from all 3 rating agencies. I thank City Manager Mike Malinoff, Finance Director Jody Dickinson, Budget Manager Katie Connolly, and their team for the long hours they put in to compile the budget for City Council to review. I also thank my council colleagues for their thoughtful and thorough review that they always bring and their vision and advocacy for their residents. When I first ran for office 7 years ago, I promised to bring new ideas and try new things. I promised to build partnerships and find creative ways to fund projects and minimize the burden on residents. I promised to build a more environmentally sustainable, economically vibrant city that honors and preserves our history while adapting and preparing for the future. I promise to work for a more equitable and inclusive community where every resident is valued and has a voice. Tonight, thanks to the support of my council colleagues who I know share these values, I'm pleased to report on all the ways we are delivering on this vision, underpinned by the hard work and dedication of everyone who works at the city. One of the things that I learned in my 6+ years as mayor is that much as we plan ahead each year, there is always something unexpected that comes at us fast. That is why contingency planning is now part of each city budget. Adaptive departmental leadership has also helped the city to weather the unexpected and ensure we have funding and personnel in place to respond when new priorities or emergencies arise. Tonight, we'll talk about promises we've kept and also touch on difficult issues we have had to navigate. The COVID-19 pandemic and the 2021 tornado taught us many lessons. We have learned to be flexible, coordinate closely, and quickly access emergency relief for our residents and businesses. When the historic flooding hit downtown and Eastport on January, we declared a state of emergency, unlocking up to $50,000 per business in grant funding from Anne Arundel County's Economic Development Corporation. These grants help Dock Street businesses like Pips, I know many of you guys eat at Pips, pay for the cleanup and purchase new equipment and supplies. Instead of months of waiting for insurance, the funding was swiftly approved to help businesses like Pips reopen as quickly as possible. Not every business sought the funding, but we made sure they had the option. Flexibility is critical as we see the increasing impact of sea level rise and climate change. Those impacts are exactly why we have worked hard at CityDock, arguably our boldest initiative. I thank Eileen Fogarty, retired City Manager David Gerald, and DPW Director Burr Vogel for their tireless work to craft a plan, listen to the public, and incorporate feedback. For 5 years, they've been engaged in that work, holding 136 public meetings and giving over 300 stakeholder briefings. This is how we built unprecedented consensus and effective partnerships. The public-private partnership that rebuilt the Hillman Garage, which opened in June last year, 2 months ahead of schedule, is a great example. It delivered not just the state-of-the-art gateless garage, but a funding mechanism for the new CityDock through a $24 million concession payment. Tonight, I'm pleased to report that the financial outlook for the first year of operations of the Hillman Garage has exceeded expectations. That deserves a round of applause because we weren't sure. Thank you. We know that adapting parking changes downtown have not been easy, but that work is the seed for our future resilience work at CityDock. We are fortunate that we have amazing partners who are helping to provide funding. The state of Maryland and our state delegation have committed $3 million more in funding to CityDock in FY25, bringing the total state contribution to 15, I think it'll be 18 million when they finish. Our federal delegation has earmarked more than $8 million, including $1.2 million announced last week for being champions of our capital city. I thank Senator Van Hollins and Cardin and Representative Sarbanes and State Senator Elfrith, Delegates Janika Henson and Delegate Dana Jones. Can we give a round of applause to all those guys? We thank you for helping Annapolis be a resilience leader for coastal cities in the US and around the globe. And we are getting that recognition with delegations from China, Netherlands, the Czech Republic, Philippines, and more, visiting Annapolis to learn how we are dealing with resiliency challenges. These visits are not just ceremonial exchanges. They can lead to ongoing dialogue and exchange of ideas. That's just what happened in November last year. We led a delegation including Maryland's Planning Secretary, Rebecca Flora, Tanya Asman from Anne Arundel County, City Manager Mike Malinoff, and his deputy Jackie Gold, Annapolis City Council members Karma O'Neill, Brooke Schandelmeyer, Rob Savage, and DeWong Gay, and department directors Marcus Moore and Burr Vogel on a study tour to the Netherlands to learn about alternative transportation and resilience infrastructure. It was an eye-opening experience for all of us. We came away with new ideas for flood control, including a simple piece of Dutch technology in the form of a light but effective barrier we can now deploy on Compromise Street during flood events. It has saved us from having to close the street a number of times in the past few months, and it only cost $5,000. Resilience work rarely comes that cheap, and I must acknowledge our grant writers whose tireless efforts helped us afford the big price tag of the CityDock project, including Compromise Street, work that doesn't directly tap the city taxpayer. I want to recognize OEM's Dave Mandel, who has written successful FEMA grant proposals that have brought tens of millions for CityDock resilience. David is also the co-author of the Hazard Mitigation Plan, which lays out the dangers that await if we don't solve nuisance flooding in downtown. The CityDock project embodies all the principles of resilience, partnership, creativity, and community. that are at the heart of my commitment as mayor. I am pleased to report that the site plan for City Dock Park recently won approval from the Planning Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission, ensuring this vital community-centred infrastructure plan will move forward. Another promise kept. When I came into office, I knew money was being left on the table, and that is why I wanted a team of grant writers to help secure those funds. I call them our grant writing ninjas because they work quietly with precision. One of our grant writing ninjas is our chief comprehensive planner, Eric Lashinsky, who has sought and received more than 11 million in grant funding to help the city reimagine pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. Eric has worked to plan and fund trails and paths that will connect communities from Eastport to Quiet Waters, Forest Drive to Truxton Park, and downtown to job centres at the mall and the hospital. Focusing on infrastructure is a promise kept. It is a goal that the city can work towards even after my term in office is complete. That is why I've included an annual $4 million capital budget appropriation for connecting communities. You can thank Rob Savage for that. One of the key lessons we learned in the Netherlands is that cycling must be safe for people to take it up in large numbers. In the past year, we have seen badly injured and even people killed when biking or walking around Annapolis. That is unacceptable and demonstrates the need to meet people where they are. Our team will continue to work to provide safe, walkable, bikeable, a safe, walkable and bikeable city, a city that values people over cars. Our transportation revolution doesn't stop there. We're also working to implement new sustainable mobility options. That is why we have pursued and won a $3 million grant from the Department of Transportation to implement the nation's first fully electric bike-to-ferry transit across Spa Creek. Together with new EV charging infrastructure, new electric vehicles in our transportation fleet, and other new micro-mobility options, we are keeping our promises to build a more sustainable and connected community. A leader in this work is our Transportation Director, Marcus Moore. In May, Director Moore's team will roll out an on-demand transit initiative. In the year ahead, a new electric circulator bus will come online. This new circulator will no longer be the magenta bus, but it will be green in both colour and in environmental impact. Director Moore has also launched 2 e-trolleys from Maryland Ave and Eastport and is seeking grant funds to electrify our transit fleet. Soon the city will bring on a full-time bike pedestrian coordinator and planner to work with Director Moore, the community, government partners and other organisations to help drive our transportation revolution and ensure it is part of this city's DNA. Our commitment to our community is reflected in one of the most important projects, the grant-funded Choice Neighbourhood Initiative, or as it's known, CNI. And this is for Harbour House and Eastport Terrace. These 2 neighbourhoods managed by the Housing Authority and owned by HUD are well beyond their service life. 3 years ago, the city and the Housing Authority jointly applied for a $400,000 CNI planning grant to reimagine these communities. The goal is to provide safe, affordable housing for current residents as part of a mixed income housing development, so that neighbourhoods aren't cut off from life's necessities, including transportation, childcare and recreation, which has been creating an island of poverty. Over the past 2 years, the city and HACA have conducted numerous community meetings to develop a plan that will see our largest addition of workforce housing in a half of a century. That's a big deal. In February, HUD approved the plan, leading us one step closer to a $50 million implementation grant. This year, we are asking the council to approve $1 million in infrastructure dollars to match a proposed $1 million in Governor Wes Moore's state budget. I thank Senator Sarah Alfred, Delegate Shanika Henson, and Delegate Dana Jones for shepherding those funds through the state budget process this legislative season, which ends at midnight tonight. I'm optimistic that these dollars, I'm sure they're clapping. I'm optimistic that these dollars can be used to jumpstart this transformation. Our residents deserve nothing less than expediency to get shovels in the ground. I want to assure everyone that this redevelopment project does not involve displacement of current residents because we are adding capacity. The order of operation will be build, then relocate, then demo. It helps that we have 29 acres on the site. If you're interested in learning more, please visit eastportcni.org. I'm going to take a little sip of water here, excuse me. This is where I make a Marco Rubio joke, but it's a very old joke, so I can't make it about when he got thirsty. Water access. Water access is another priority. Recently, we received more than $500,000 grant funding to restore Hawkins Cove as an inviting public waterfront space. That work involves shoreline restoration, public water access, replacing and extending the pier to deep water for fishing and recreation, and the Connecting Communities Trail between Eastport and Truxton Park. I want to thank Jackie Gold, Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability, for leading this work. The Annapolis Harbour Master, DPW, and the Department of Recreation and Parks are also working together to enhance water access throughout the city and identify infrastructure in need of upgrades and repair. At Cheston Avenue, Street End Park, the team completely replaced the timber bulkhead, then installed an aluminum gangway and floating dock. At Robert Eads Park, planning and zoning staff secured $400,000 in grants for public water access and improvements, including grading work to create a walkable path to the water that will stabilize the shoreline, install furnishings, lighting, and park signage. When additional grant funding comes in to rework the roadway, we will be able to expand this public park on Clay Street even further. This park is directly across from Morris Blum and near Mary Moss Academy. The new park will be a wonderful water access opportunity for residents of all ages. On Roe Boulevard, a key access point to the city, we are working with the state and the Naval Academy and Anne Arundel Recreation and Parks community volunteers to create a new gateway park. I must again acknowledge our federal delegation for locking down $850,000 in congressional earmark for design and construction work at the site, including walking paths that lead to the water. Change is something driven by people, not projects. Director of Planning and Zoning, Chris Jacobi, has brought a depth of experience in comprehensive planning, zoning, development, economic, and fiscal policy. Under his leadership, our Planning and Zoning Department is working to deliver another important promise by reorganizing and streamlining operations with an emphasis on efficiency and customer service. One example is our revamped permitting process, where Director Jakubiak worked with his team to identify log jams and bottlenecks. He then appointed a permits administrator and created an expedited approval program. Planning and zoning now have the ability to process up to 5 permits in a single day, meaning applicants with relatively small projects effectively get same-day service. They've also reorganized the development plan review process to facilitate more responsive projects, more response to projects, big and small. I'm grateful to Chris and our planning zoning staff who are embracing these changes to make things better for our residents. That's a promise half kept, but we're working. As I noted earlier, in government, bad stuff comes at you fast, while the good stuff takes time and hard work. There is no clearer picture of that than in the case of public safety. Police Chief Ed Jackson, Fire Chief Doug Romali, and OEM Director Kevin Simmons direct our Go to Public Safety team for when the going gets tough. These guys have the toughest job in the city. It certainly got tough last year with 9 homicides and a distressing number by any measurement. This includes our second mass shooting in June last year with 3 souls who were gunned down outside their home in Ward 7. Annapolis police were on the scene in minutes. They swiftly arrested the gunman and have worked with FBI and ATF and the state's attorney to collect evidence to help prosecutors prepare for trial. Through staffing and intensified relationships with partner law enforcement agencies, APD works to keep our community safe. Under Chief Jackson's leadership, APD has achieved notable success in solving cases, with a clearance rate that has exceeded the national rate every year since 2021. In addition, over the past 2 years, there have been 0 excess force complaints, no complaints of any type of officer misconduct. Our APD show every day that they are a professional force with talent and grit to do the work. They are being noticed on a national stage. Late last month, 2 Annapolis police detectives, Aaron Stein and Larry D. Leon Abus, received awards for the ATF for their work in the Michelle Cummings case. APD works closely with Anne Arundel County Crisis Intervention Team and has deployed an Annapolis-specific mobile crisis team to respond to situations that involve mental health and behavioural health crisis instead of using the criminal justice system to punish people who are struggling. Their community policing model, thank you. Their community policing model, and I want to draw attention to our community policing model. This was a community policing model that happened very early in this administration. It works to lift up residents who haven't been afforded the resources, care, and attention that all of us deserve. Annapolis Fire continued their record of having no fire fatalities in the past year, just as they have every year for the past 14 years. Chief Romali reminds all residents that Annapolis firefighters and medical personnel have one important duty: to protect the residents and visitors of Maryland's state capital. They continue recruitment efforts to fill vacancies, and they have a special focus on previously trained paramedics and lateral firefighters to fill openings. This brings a huge saving to the city. Annapolis Fire remains in the top tier of responders nationwide, besting national figures for the first unit on scene. I think I can share this tip with Annapolis residents. If you see AFD lights and hear the sirens, please get out of the way. At OEM, Director Kevin Simmons and his team tackle emergencies big and small. They conduct extensive training exercises so that Annapolis personnel are prepared for the unexpected. After the 2021 tornado, Director Simmons reached out to our state delegation to pass enabling legislation in the General Assembly allowing local states of emergency. This allowed us to pursue the funding after January's flooding event. He led that charge when there wasn't an emergency, so that when we were prepared for one, we were prepared when one arrived. Sorry, Kevin, I meant to deliver that line better for you. Sorry. When January's historic flooding came, OEM coordinated a response. Thank you, Director Simmons. As previously mentioned, OEM is diligent in seeking grant funding, has been successful in locking down resources for flood mitigation, stormwater, homeland security initiatives, and substance use disorder. In all, they received more than $700,000 in grants last year. They are also deploying the $1 million opioid settlement monies secured by the Office of Law. These funds are being used directly to assist residents with substance use disorder. I'm particularly proud of the way all of our departments work together when the unexpected comes at us fast. During the height of January's flooding event, a fire broke out at the Lighthouse shelter, and some of our most vulnerable residents were urgently in need of a place to stay. In spite of other emergencies that they were managing, Annapolis Fire, Annapolis OEM responded quickly and worked with Department of Transportation and Recs and Parks to plan and coordinate a response. Lighthouse residents were bused to Pip Moyer, where beds were quickly set up, food was delivered, and staff stayed overnight to help displaced residents. Interdepartmental cooperation was a great thing to see on that day. Our Department of Recreation and Parks, under the leadership of Director Rosalind Johnson, is also working in creative ways to support residents with programs that are relevant and enriching, facilities that are well maintained and managed. Throughout the year, they have provided 2,000 campers safe, fun places to learn and play outdoors. They work with community partners to create and maintain trails for walkers, hikers, and bikers at Truxton Park, Waterworks, and the new Gateway Park, and many more. They recently applied and won a $60,000 Cal Ripken Senior Foundation grant to create science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and that's called STEAM centers at both Pip Moyer and Stanton Center. Director Johnson has also partnered with the Resilience Authority to seek RFPs for shoreline restoration and a master plan for the new Cars Elktonia Beach Park, parts of which were funded through a $2 million earmark from Senator Ben Cardin. The recent acquisition of the Parlett Moore property next to Cars Elktonia provides us with an exciting opportunity to honor Black history, create a new public water access for residents, and to bring the beach back. For any of you that have been to the beach, it's the beach. We're bringing the beach back, and we're very excited that we could do this on our watch. As I wrap up, I want to acknowledge that we have amazing city staff who go above and beyond for every resident. Our City of Annapolis employees, I thank each and every one of you for what you do for this community each and every day. Across the city, in all departments, our grant writing ninjas may work quietly behind the scenes, but they make big differences. In the past few years, they have brought in more than $42 million in grant funding from federal government, state government, and foundations. But they aren't done yet, with $40 million in the pipeline for a total of more than $82 million to fund projects and activities. That is an outstanding achievement. I've spoken at length tonight, but there are many things I haven't touched on. Our community, I made them do this, sorry. Our community grants program and outreach, our harm reduction programs, our celebration of culture and diversity, our professional support teams who work behind the scenes to make all of this happen. It is because of them that I can proudly say tonight that the state of the city of Annapolis is strong. Our city is achieving all the goals we have set: resiliency, sustainability, greener transportation and infrastructure, better housing, greater representation and diversity, and more effective and efficient services. Our team will continue working hard to deliver promises we've made. Again, thank you. Your city loves you, and Mr. City Attorney, on with the day.
Thank you.
Because we're lo-fi, I have to take this down myself.
I'll take it. Mr. Mayor. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with report by committees.
Alderman Savage.
We had to cancel the March Environmental Matters Committee meeting due to a budget meeting that took precedence, so,
Oh, sorry. We do have a video.
okay.
Picture so much better than words. Thank you, Alderman Savage.
So yeah, Environmental Matters Committee meeting, we canceled because the budget meeting took precedence, and so we're working on rescheduling it. I'll be in touch. Trying to think what we're gonna have on that agenda. We'll probably be talking about some of the budget items, but beyond that, I'll keep you updated. Comp plan again? Possibly. All right, thank you.
Alderman Tierney had a hand up, and then
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee did not meet last time as we didn't have any pressing legislation. However, we will make up for it in the next 2 weeks because we start our budget review on Monday, the department review meetings for 2 weeks. So all are welcome, and we'll get that schedule out to everybody if they haven't had it already. Thank you.
thank you. Alderman O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Transportation Committee meeting scheduled for this coming Wednesday has been canceled. The next Transportation Committee meeting will be on May 8th, and I believe we will have an update from the folks that run the bird scooters on May 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Finlayson.
After your State of the City address this evening, the Public Safety Standing Committee has no report. You've done it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rules and City Government Committee met on March 15th, and we gave our report at the last meeting. Our next meeting will be on Friday, May 3rd, 1 o'clock here in Council Chambers. All are invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Chandlemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Economic Matters will be meeting on Wednesday, April 17th at 6:30 p.m. It will be a short but efficient meeting.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item. agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
All right. A couple of people signed up. Please come forward. Marianne Marbury. Please state your full name and address, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Can everyone hear me? Is that... Can you hear me? No? Is it on?
Everything's.
All right. I think that's going to work. Yeah, great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the council, for the opportunity to speak. My name's Marianne Marbury. I'm a resident of Ward 1. I've lived here for 20 years. I reside at 134 Market Street. I am one of the co-founders of a group called Save Our Trees. We're a group of citizens, neighbors, and friends who came together about 2 years ago to address the significant problem of English ivy and other invasive vines that are destroying our mature canopy trees in both Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. I'm happy to say that to date, we've saved over 3,500 trees, and it's our goal by the end of June to save 5,000. So we've made great strides. Thank you. We were happy to see that the initial 2040 comprehensive plan had a goal of a 50% tree canopy. And we want to do everything that we can to ensure that that happens. And of course, we will continue what we do, but we're very interested in helping our urban forester do anything and everything that he can do and they can do as a group to achieve that goal. And so we're here tonight basically to request that the increase that planning and zoning put in the budget this year for the urban forestry budget be approved. And that's our reason for being here. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work. We truly appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Tara Stout.
Tara Stout, 1174 Bay Highlands Drive, Annapolis. I wanted to share with the community and all of you that with cooperation from the Office of Law and Final Documents and barring any new changes from the Department of Planning and Zoning, I understand that the Willows expects to close next week. While I am certainly pleased about that and understand the reasonable thing would be to stand here tonight and exalt praise on the city, we all know that nothing about the Willows process has been reasonable. Whenever people talk about the long, slow process for development in Annapolis, it's typically with a grin and a chuckle about how the not in my backyard residents are the problem. That wasn't the case with the Willows. Every resident may not like the project, but the lack of vocal and/or legal opposition shows that residents will respect the rights of a developer that complies with the city code and is transparent with the community. The not in my backyard opposition for this project came from the city, and it's unfortunate because it's probably not that the city didn't want the project, they just wanted Providence Point more and Providence Point first. They say everything happens for a reason, and sometimes we need the benefit of hindsight to understand why. It's clear that all the lawsuits related to development haven't prompted change. Perhaps this will, and perhaps maybe it was an inspiration for some of the comments you made tonight about expediency and development, which is certainly necessary. But I would like to say it's time for change. It's out in the open now, and the community is certainly talking about it. It's one of the reasons I came tonight, to update the community and to offer a heartfelt thanks to the residents, to our county and state representatives, as well as those council members that offered support. You all know who you are. I'd like to also thank city staff. As I've said repeatedly at this podium, my comments are not personal. They are about a process that is flawed, and I think most city employees really want to do their jobs and are as fed up with this good old boy culture as I am. How can people be productive in an environment where whether they can answer a question or what that answer might be often depends on who's asking? We have a new director of planning and zoning, and from what I've heard, he's set a higher standard. He's been responsive, solution-driven, and willing to engage with the public. Changing cultures is challenging, but if you really want to be one Annapolis, you need to allow him to focus his efforts on consistently applying the code to all projects and trying to adhere to the goals you laid out tonight. Finally, I've mentioned several times at this podium how critical the 12/31/24 occupancy date was, and recently community members have approached me expressing, real concern about that. So I came here partly tonight to let them know that because of the publicity this project has received and the support of our wonderful state delegation, the state was able to find a way to work with us. We won't meet 12/31/24 occupancy, but they're not going to let the tax credits expire. We will be back when we have a more firm construction schedule so that the residents know when they may be able to, reside in this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have no one else signed up to speak. Anyone else like to come forward? Thank you. State your full name and address. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, Mayor Buckley. Kenneth Williams. I am a resident of Annapolis, Eastport. Sorry, this wasn't built for tall people. Thank you. Tonight, I am here on behalf of my chapter, 8 Eta Lambda. I'm sorry, my address. My address is 1010 Tyler Avenue. Y'all are all welcome. Bring food, bring drinks. As I said, I reside in the Eastport area, just on the edge of Eastport. Across the street is Ward 7. I am in Alderman Arnett's ward. I stand here tonight to, in light of my chapter 8 Eta Lambda, which is a chapter of our fraternity, which is Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Tonight, we're asking the City Council to recognize our fraternity in its longstanding service and advocacy for this city. Long before our chartering date of April 14th, which is coming up soon, of 1959, this fraternity and this chapter in particular, which is the only chapter that resides in the county of Anne Arundel County, has serviced this community, starting from as far back as our brother Frederick Douglass, which I'm sure all of you know the name. Very well. Some of you might know the names of some of our other illustrious brothers, which is like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, W.E.B. Du Bois, And if I could give you some of the younger brothers' names, Stuart Scott, ESPN. We've had countless numbers of brothers that have crossed the threshold or initiated into this fraternity. So we're asking that this body of city council designate Franklin Street, one block of Franklin Street from the top of Church Circle to the to Cathedral, as Alpha Phi Alpha Way in recognition of our service and advocacy. Resolution 1224 will tell you everything that we're asking for, which is very simple. It's just a block. Just to give you a little bit of the history of our fraternity in this city. Franklin Street, as you know, it was a very popular street for a lot of African Americans. Our history as a chapter, as a fraternity, resides on Franklin Street and many other streets within Annapolis. Franklin Street in particular holds a lot of value or a lot of history with us because of the Banneker Douglas Museum, which used to be the Mount Moriah Church. The Mount Moriah Church used to be the church of many of our charter members, like Brother Aris T. Allen, I'm sure you remember that name, or Dr. Theodore H. Johnson, both who were physicians here in Annapolis who actually opened up their practices to make sure that young women could deliver their kids when the hospital here in the area would not deliver it during segregated times. Some of the other history that is here is written in the resolution. I wish I had more time to tell you a lot more about it, but that is what we are asking for you tonight, to give us an affirmative and vote us up to have Alpha Phi Alpha Way. It doesn't change the street name, it's just a designation of calling Franklin Street from Church Circle to the Cathedral, Alpha Phi Alpha Way, in front of the building in which we had a lot of history, and that's the Banneker Douglas Museum. Thank you.
Thank you. This city thanks you for your amazing leadership and strong leadership. Thank you. Of course, you've got all the votes here, so we're good. Anyone else like to come forward and speak?
Chris Ledoux, Severn Avenue in Eastport. Gentlemen, I feel very underdressed. Listen, I just wanted to come out again and voice my support for the SDR legislation you're considering tonight. I've spoken before at the public hearing and several of the committee meetings, and I want to thank you first for putting up with me, but I want to thank the sponsors for working very hard, listening and working with all stakeholders, adding robust rules to close loopholes and to further responsible STR hosting. And particularly Alderman Rob Savage, who worked very hard on very tricky legislative language and shepherded this through the process. And also to the chair of the Rules Committee for ensuring that the clarifying amendments held true to the original intent of the 2016 framework. So thank you all very much, and I hope you vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? All right. Seeing no motion in the chamber, I declare comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is consent calendar.
Can I get a motion for the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is public hearings, beginning with ordinance 03323, expiration of special exceptions to city zoning requirements.
Is anybody here to speak for O-33-23? Going once, going twice. I declare the public hearing on O-33-23 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is legislative actions, beginning with first readers. Charter Amendment, CA 124, Department of Central Services.
Is there a motion to adopt CA-1-24 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Yes, suspend the rules.
I refer CA-1-24 to Rules of City Government. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on first reader is 0724, Annual Budget and Appropriation and Property Tax Levy.
Is there a motion to adopt O-7-24 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I refer O-7-24 to the Finance Committee, the Financial Advisory Committee, and the Planning Commission. And Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda for first reader is 0824, Department of Central Services.
Is there a motion to adopt O-8-24 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr.
All
Mayor?
those,
Oh, may I be added as a co-sponsor?
thank you. Cool. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Let's refer O-8-24 to the Finance Committee and Rules of City Government. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda, first readers, is resolutions. R1224, designating an honorary street name to commemorate Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.
Second.
Right, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? I wouldn't dare. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Wait.
So we're going to suspend the rules to pass it on the same night. We don't do that. Is there any motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Second and second. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-12-24 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Big aye.
Alderman Pindell Charles?
Bigger eye.
Alderman Finlayson?
The biggest.
Alderman Shandemeyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman O'Neill?
The last eye.
We're going to give you guys a round of applause.
Sheila should get in the picture.
This is your chance to make a break for it. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda for first reader is R1524, FY 2025 Annual Fees Schedule.
So a motion to adopt R-15-24.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Can I refer R-15-24 to the Finance Committee and the Financial Advisory Commission? Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is R1624, FY 2025 Annual Fines Schedule.
Is there a motion to adopt R-16-24 on first reader?
So moved. Second.
Second.
All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I refer R-16-24 to the Finance Committee and the Financial Advisory Committee. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R1724, FY 2025 Position Classifications and Pay Plan.
Is there a motion to adopt R-17-24 on first reader?
So moved.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I refer R-17-24 to the Finance Committee and the Financial Advisory Committee. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is second readers, beginning with ordinances. O3223, Short-Term Rental Licenses and Regulations.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt O-32-23 on second reader?
So move.
Second.
Okay. And so we have it on the floor now. So we will start amendments one by one and vote on them. Alderman O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My amendment one allows the planning.
We could just move that and get a second.
Oh,
Amendment
I'd
number.
like to move amendment one.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. So it allows the Planning and Zoning Department to revoke a short-term rental license after 3 nuisance complaints against the property. And there's been some discussion about what nuisance complaint is, and the property owner must receive the notifications.
Thank you. Any discussion on that, Alderman Gay, and then Alderman Arnett?
Thank you so much. I will support because I think it's just a logical amendment. My only question is, are these incidents, do they have to be documented? And if so, are they being documented by the Annapolis Police Department and then sent to Planning and Zoning, or how is that, how is the information traveling?
I would like for it to be either enforcement by a police officer if police have been called, or an inspection by one of our planning and zoning inspectors. Anything that's a written complaint that the owner has received. We've already seen issues in the city where there are several properties that probably could be taken off the books for the 3 infractions already.
Do you just add then to D, APD? Because it says any property that has been subject to 3 valid nuisance complaints as determined by Director of Planning and Zoning, and should it also just say /APD?
I would accept that.
Can we add that? Can you just repeat that, Alderman Gay?
Yeah, I'm just saying for Amendment 1, under G and it's bullet D, it says any property that has been the subject of 3 valid nuisance complaints as determined by the Director of Planning and Zoning shall be denied a license or may be revoked. And I'm just saying add /APD to that.
Go with that amendment? Yep. Thank you. All set, Alderman Gay? Good. Alderman Arnett, then Alderman Shannemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at Rules Committee, we had discussion about this. I think there's ambiguity about what constitutes a valid complaint and also how records are being kept. It was our understanding from testimony from staff that normally when there's a complaint, the police will come and ask the people who are making noise to quiet down, but they don't keep a record. So I think there's some real concerns about the enforceability of this. I guess I'm loath to vote for something that I don't think can actually be enforced, but I would ask for a response on that.
Mr. City Manager, is noise complaints, do they, APD, can they record those?
Michael Malinoff, City Manager. The question is whether the APD can record. They use a sound meter.
Or make a notation of a noise complaint. So
yes,
if it's more than just to turn the noise down,
right, absolutely. Yeah. And we happen to be talking about another section of the code later last week. But if it's from a certain area or a certain individual 3 times, I think the code says, then the APD could go to that too.
So
and receive a citation.
Are there other forms of valid complaint? Is it only that the police issue a citation?
Well, I'd have to get that with no one from APD here now, so I think City Manager.
I mean, there would be a variety of misdemeanors and felonies that could be as a result. But I couldn't really answer that. The city attorney maybe have a better idea. But I do know what the city code has for civil citations. And the one that I know that's used most often has to do with repeated disturbances. And I think the magic number's 3. It's section 17 of the code.
Mr. City Attorney, can you give some clarification to that? If a noise complaint comes in, and police make a record of that noise complaint, do we have somewhere to go to find that information?
That's a practical issue. It's not legal. I've never seen that, but I'm sure the code provides authority for the departments, the city manager, to create all manner of complaint mechanisms.
So just to follow up a little more, so if there is a citation or just a record that they've been called, will the owner of the short-term rental be notified of that? That seems to me to be the most effective thing, is if there's, they're renting to people and not paying attention to the nuisance making because of noise, we would certainly want the renter to be notified of that. And I think what I'm leading to is I'm not sure we really have in this amendment or in practice a regularized process that puts the owner on notice and could stand up if the owner comes and says they have no knowledge of complaints and therefore their license shouldn't be revoked. I understand the intent. I'm not opposing the intent. We want the short-term rentals, and I think the short-term rental purveyors, the listings, Airbnb and so forth, want them to be well-behaved. I'm just not sure we have enough here to make this actually applicable. And part of the reason and part of my positive response to the city manager is if, in fact, police are told that they should keep a record when they show up at an address, then we do have something that can be enforced if there's 3 valid infractions. But if they're not keeping a record of that, I'm not sure we're really accomplishing anything here.
I might let you speak to that, Alderman O'Neill.
Sure, and I will say this. I know that in the staff report, it talks about not having very many, my page is not working, complaints, and they actually give us a number on one of the pages. Sorry, on page 2. That it says there were 2 for noise, 1 complaint about a single owner with more than 1 STR. From what I'm hearing from residents, that is inaccurate.
I think you're right.
Because I have one resident in particular who has reached out to me at least 10 times. And it's not just noise, it's disrespect, privacy, it's people that are inebriated hanging over a fence trying to do something stupid. There's been lots of complaints. There's leaving the trash out. They put the trash out on Monday morning when the trash isn't collected until Thursday, but they put the cans because they're leaving, or Sunday night and they're leaving. And so there's lots of issues where we can be better enforcing this and should be. And
so if I may, I think you're actually making the point I want to make is if we're going to have this in the code, it really needs to be enforceable. We need to have appropriate city authorities keeping track of it. My suspicion is that there were a lot more than just a handful as well, because I've heard more than that. And I think we have reasonably well-behaved short-term rentals in my ward. So the point of the question is, I think we need to do more than this amendment if it's going to have teeth.
And Mr. City Manager was just going to give some clarification there.
There are two areas of clarification. One, if you remember, the council added another position to the Department of Planning and Zoning to help with nuisance inspections. And there's been turnover in that position, but it's recently been filled. And that would be one area to go after, and that's what that person's job is. And I talked to the director about the position earlier last week. And then I'd also mentioned section 1744060, and I copied Alderman Arnett and the mayor on it. And it has to do with if police make 3 or more documented calls for service in the 30-day period to a premises in response to a complaint of disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, and a variety of others, then there can be fines and revocations of licenses for rental properties and the like. So that's the nearest to that I know that we do. And then the rest would be acts of criminality that the police department would be handling otherwise.
So in a sense, if it does become code, we can work to enhance the enforcement through the planning and zoning department.
Yep. And set up the systems, yeah. I think that's what we're starting here. Alderman Shannon was next, then Alderman Savage.
Thanks, Mayor. My question is, are valid complaints just things that people don't like, or is it actual citations issued? Being disrespectful to neighbors is very annoying, but it's not illegal. I've gotten complaints from people because their neighbors smoke marijuana, but under current state law, that's legal. Would those be considered valid complaints? The trash thing, that is an actual code violation, so that's something a citation could issue, it's something documented, but what's our definition here of valid? Is it my neighbor just doesn't like this group of renters that's coming in, or is it something that an actual citation, an actual fine, an actual code violation can be issued, has to be issued for?
And it would have to be a code violation. I mean, an actual code violation would have to have, you know, if the police are called out and they find that the decibel is too high for the noise coming from this space, often the police will come out more than one time in an evening, because they tell them, give them a warning first. And so definitely a code violation. There's a decibel level that is not supposed to be surpassed. So I do think it's that. I wouldn't want to have people just calling, oh, I don't like the color of the car that's parked out front of my house. But I think that our enforcement can go to the code for the infraction.
My worry is the as determined by portion is that can actually be up for a lot of interpretation from director to director. It's just vague. And again, I've gotten complaints from people. Some of them I personally find valid. Some of them I find a bit unusual. But unless we have something specific, like saying like a fine issued or a citation issued, it's very worrisome for what's up in the air, what could be determined as valid.
Alderman Savage and Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I support entirely where you're going with this, because that was one of the reasons for me trying to tweak this, is because of some of the issues we've had in particular in my neighborhood. So I want to offer some language. So it wouldn't change too much, but it would say any property that has had 3 nuisance violations as determined by the Director of Plan and Zoning or Annapolis Police Department, and then the rest would be the same. So you think that would work to be acted? I think we would need some action from the city manager's office as far as ensuring that if the police come out or Plan and Zoning come out to respond, that they make some kind of finding and by actual violation if it's proven, because we'll need that to properly enforce. But I think that might, because I do hear what Alderman Schneidermeyer is saying. We want to make, somebody could not like a property and just make 3 random complaints, and it can be completely illegitimate. But if the police come out, that'd be technically could be used. The only check we have on that is the Director of Plan and Zoning, or the police department, which I think could help, again, do that, provide that check, but I think it might be good to put the violation language. Would you be open?
I agree.
Okay.
So where exactly would that go?
In the beginning, so it would be, it would read any property that has had 3 nuisance violations as determined by the Director of Plan and Zoning or Annapolis Police Department.
But I don't see where that goes
So
in
it's
the...
violations instead of complaints.
Yeah.
Is the wording that you're changing on line 12 on page 7.
Yeah, I guess you could do it that way too. Just substitute complaints, violations for complaints. So any property that's been subject of 3 valid nuisance violations. I guess would that work, Mr. City Attorney? I think.
Well, you got a couple terms here. They use verified complaints is the term that they use in one section. So we have to make them the same. Valid and or verified. Has
So
to be
valid and verified.
Well, I think verified is what's used in the other part of the amendment.
Okay.
As I'm reading it. So we probably want to stick with one term or the other.
Okay. So we could substitute verified for valid, or take out valid, put verified. 3 subject to 3 verified nuisance violations.
Yes, because they in G1B little I, the term is causing a verified nuisance.
Okay. Would that be a friendly, accepted friendly amendment?
Yes, accept.
But I'm still not sure of the wording. Right now it says causing a verified.
That's not the amendment.
Well, this is Amendment 1, isn't that what we're talking about? Oh, I'm sorry. Go here. I'm sorry. All right, I'll catch up.
Go there, Regina. Okay.
Okay. All right. So are we voting on the amendment?
Alderman Gay.
Thank you. While they figure out the language, I have just questions. So we don't have overnight workers in the planning and zoning department. So the complaint, well, first, just with the language, why not just strike? Because I looked above and it says excessive noise or traffic, unruly public behavior, and any threat to public safety, directly or indirectly, which seems like things that would be a crime and already included in the city code or included in some form of scope for law enforcement. So why not just strike D and move up so, you know, any property that has been subject to 3 valid nuisance complaint, including maybe but not limited to, or something like that, excessive noise, traffic exception, so that, to the alderman's point, you take out the role of the department head, because that could be, that changes, you know, based off of the department head, and you still incorporate the police department, which goes to my next point in the actual procedural process. So you get a complaint, an actual crime, because to the alderman's point, it can't be like, you know, I don't like my neighbor. So you get a complaint, the Annapolis Police Department files that. Are they doing that on a particular form or something that then could be transferred over to the planning department? Or are they just, who's doing the note keeping so that the next morning the, you know, Annapolis Police Department is sending to the planning staff, we had X amount of complaints from these homes. You know, just how is that information transferred internally? And then secondly, well, if you could answer that one, and then my second question.
I don't know what the procedure is by the police. I guess that would be a good thing to, as far as where that complaint goes, who it's sent to, are they going to know it's a short-term rental? I guess when the complaint comes in, most likely, if I'm the one complaining, I'm going to be complaining that it's a short-term rental next door and that there's a problem going on. But it's not just limited to noise again, it's limited to that trash issue, which is a code violation, which would be reported most likely by a neighboring resident to planning and zoning or through our report a problem.
Is there currently maybe an application online where, because I'm trying to think, is it even necessary to bring the police into this? Is there an application? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to offer to the council that at the end of the legislation, we put in that the department, within 90 days of enactment, shall promulgate such rules and regulations as are necessary and proper. We're now getting into such detail that the forms haven't been created, the complaint process hasn't been established, but the department has to come up with those rules and regulations. So there will be an opportunity for the council to see those through the Rules and City Government Committee if you want to get that level of detail. But I think you're at this point such a granular stage, you really got to have staff kind of kick in with regulations and see those regulations in operation.
I will defer to you, but to me, that makes perfect sense because, yeah, I guess what I was getting into is kind of the details of operation. Last question, and I think somebody may have asked this already. I was under the impression that we only had like one sound decibel system or something, and it was actually kept at the department. And so are noise complaints even valid, complaints? Because, typically with a noise complaint, if the officer is out, he will, or he or she will go to the home, knock on the door, and, they'll turn the, noise down or whatever. I don't know if that is something that can even be a valid complaint. In particular, if we don't have each officer equipped with the machinery necessary to, do measure decibels in that moment. And so, but I'm going to support it because I think there should be some, way that neighbors can, submit a complaint and have some sort of follow-up. I'm not sure how the actual process works.
Thank you.
Alderman Shannon might have his hand up next, sorry, and then Alderman Arnett. Sorry.
Mine was just to say Alderman Savage's language would calm my concerns on this amendment. So,
Alderman Arnett?
So I want to make sure I understand. I do like the idea of promulgating rules. So adding that, but basic. Okay, so any property that has a valid nuisance as defined as a violation of city code for which a citation has been issued, is that what we're talking about here? Because if a citation isn't issued, I'm not sure we have documentation.
I think what the city attorney was saying that they're going to be promulgated or developed in planning and zoning, and they'll come back to rules for, to oversee them, right?
Okay.
So vote on this knowing that our planning and zoning department are going to evolve the concept. Right?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Thank you.
Point of order question,
yes.
Mr. Mayor. Is what we just voted on, was that with the language change provided by Alderman Gay and Alderman Savage?
I think that includes the friendly amendment. So.
Yes.
Mr. City Attorney,
Yes.
is that accurate? Okay, please record me as an aye vote for that then.
Okay, Alderman O'Neill, amendment number 2.
Amendment number 2 speaks of.
Just move that and get a second.
So moved.
Move amendment number 2.
Second.
All right, amendment number 2 speaks to fines related to violations of the city code, because currently I do not believe that there are fines, and perhaps instigating fines for some of the code violations can help in the enforcement process.
Thank you. We've got a second on that.
I second.
And then Alderman Arnett.
So I want to make sure, because if a citation is issued, there's usually a fine associated. We're using the Universal State Citation Code, right?
The regulations haven't been set up yet, so we don't know what we're using.
Well, I am in favor of a fine if they're violating.
And you'll have a fine. You'll have a fine schedule amendment that changes that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Savage.
So we do have a fine that's listed for Chapter 1744.
Which is noise, right?
Well, it's related to complaints, suspensions, and revocations of rental licenses. And so I guess it sounds like that may apply. If it doesn't, we can always come back with a resolution or just do it in the budget as an amendment. But I guess, could we make a request to the law office to see if that's needed, an actual separate additional fine item line
Well,
item for that?
you will need a fine for this because it's it's something new, so it'll have to be added to the schedule.
Okay, so can we make a request that get added to the, I guess as a budget amendment of some kind? Okay.
Alderman Arnett.
So by this discussion, I'm assuming that the city manager and the staff carried on down to planning and zoning, recognize that the expectation is there will be rules and procedures developed that further specify that. And as city attorney says, that'll come to the rules and city government for review. We don't have approval authority, but we at least get to review those rules and procedures. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
For clarity, before we vote, we're about to pass the amendment. It'll come back in the form of a resolution during the budget process, and that's where we'll actually create the fine amounts. Perfect. The red language was throwing me off. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Arnett, amendment number 3.
Thank you, Alderman Savage. Amendment number 3 is Savage, right?
Oh, it just says Arnett, so.
Wait a minute,
I withdrew that one, so 3 is now yours.
Good.
Can you move that and we get a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
So, yes, this speaks to getting what we have actually had in code for a while, but have not really been getting, which is an annual report from the department on all of the aspects of short-term rentals, the numbers of them, anything that has to do with ownership, things of that nature, for those that are not owned within the city by an owner who does not live within the city, the resident agent, all of those kinds of details that have to go with the enforcement of and regulation of short-term rentals. So it's asking for an annual report.
Thank you. Sounds great. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Finlayson, amendment number 4.
Yes, the Rules Committee gave favorable recommendation to several of the amendments that make up number 4. The first is taking the place of the Savage Amendment 1. Oh, I'm sorry. The Rules Committee is moving amendments number 5. The first portion of this replaces the Savage Amendment number 3. The second portion on page 4 of the legislation speaks to seeking approval from the homeowners or the condominium association. I guess it's still the second piece, requires a permission or a consent by the director from the association to be included in their bylaws.
And thank you for moving that. I forgot to get a second. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just jumped right
Second.
into it.
Thank you. Right, keep going. Sorry.
And the last piece of it asks the city manager to oversee the provisions in the legislation.
Thank you. Alderman Gay had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I was under the impression that homeowner associations or associations of such were controlled by state code. Is that not accurate?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
There is a state condominium code, yes, but depends on what you're asking specifically about.
So the city can, so if I'm reading correctly, bullet 2 is requesting that associations add to their bylaws some sort of, it requires proof that associations approve of the STR if such condition is required?
May I explain?
Alderman Savage?
So, that just states that it's the burden is on the applicant to make sure that they provide proof that their HOA allows this activity. It doesn't put any requirements on the HOA. It just says that applicant has to prove. Because the way it was originally worded is that it had staff needing to verify, but we wanted to put the onus on the applicant instead of city staff.
Okay, and what if a HOA or a like condominium association is not active? I know there are certain communities in the city where they have HOAs, but they don't meet regularly, or they are not active. And so if you have a property and you aren't able to obtain that, does that prohibit you from obtaining a license?
May I?
Yeah, Alderman Phillips?
My understanding is if there's a covenant that your HOA has in place when it was originally created, it doesn't go away even if they are inactive. The rules that are set down in that document are the rules. And so we are asking that the HOA or whatever association manages or oversees the rules for the property is aware, and it's included in their covenant. And I think that's by law. Mr. Lyles, I could be wrong. I know that was.
It is. You're correct.
Yeah.
An HOA is valid whether the people are serving or not. That's a legal question to be tested. But if a corporation has a board of directors, they need to continue to act like they're a corporation. If they stop acting like a corporation, stop filing their required SDAT filings, they could be invalidated, in which case there would not be an HOA. But if the HOA is still valid under state law, whether people are coming to the meetings or not regularly, the HOA provisions would still apply.
And then the last bullet on page is bullet 8 on page 7 and line 19. It says, after safety, insert as determined by the city manager. Would it not just go to the director of planning and zoning, since everything is going to the director of planning and zoning? It just says, lest the city managers decide who enforces.
Say that, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. You said on page 7?
It's the last bullet. Oh, I think Alderman Savage.
Alderman Savage wants to answer?
Thank you.
I can address that. If I can address that if you want.
Please, I'm not
So the committee changed that language because it all depends on when the violation happens. So during the day, it's handled by plan and zoning, but in the evening, it would be by the police. And so that's why it says, it just defers to the city manager because it depends on the time.
Thank you. Alderman O'Neill, still have you? Yes.
Sure. I just wanted to give you an example of an HOA having control. My sister lives in a condominium complex where there's 30 condominiums, and in their HOA rules, they've stated no more than 3% of the units can be short-term rentals. So no more than 3 at any given time. So she wanted to do it because she was moving out and is not able to because there are already 3% people. So that's just an example of an HOA being able to say yes or no whether you can have that short-term rental.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
So I just want to reiterate, this legislation does not in any way tell HOAs what to do. What we're saying is the applicant for a short-term rental needs to tell our staff that if they're in a HOA, that they're in compliance with the HOA rules. So again, we're not telling HOAs or getting into HOA's business. We're just saying if you're applying for it and you're in a condominium, you need to assure us that you're in compliance with those rules.
Thank you. Alderman Gay has his hand up again.
Thanks. Just quickly, I was under the impression that when we had the last debacle with the short-term rentals, this is kind of included in what you had in Amendment 3, requesting the reports and the maps. I thought that we were already outsourcing to a third-party company to produce those statistics. And so why would it be necessary then to ask the staff, as it pertains to Amendment 4 too, to,
I mean, we have host compliance and they do produce those things, but I think we're asking for it to be presented to the council. Is that what you're saying?
To my knowledge, and there may be more, I've only seen one of those reports. And it was to be an annual report. One of the reasons for seeing it annually is we'd like to see how things are changing. You know, it's rumored that short-term rentals are growing, you know, rapidly, exponentially, so on and so forth. I think actually Alderman Schoenemeyer gave us at one of our meetings that the number of short-term rentals is growing a little bit, but the number of days are going down. Did I get that correct, Alderman Schoenemeyer?
I just did the hand thing because that also included county data, so it was a very zoomed out thing.
We need to respond to our constituents when they say, every time I turn around, more of the neighborhood's being taken care of short-term rental. We need the data to say whether they're correct or to disabuse them of the notion. Quite frankly, I think that the activity here has stabilized, but I'd like to know that. And so all this is just reaffirming that we're expecting an annual report. I don't care who puts it together. I hope host compliance does a good job, but whoever does it, we just need to have an annual report.
Thank you. So let's vote on the Finlayson Amendment number 4 for Rules Committee. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Amendment number 5. Alderman Tierney.
You have to move it.
Yeah, I move amendment number 5.
Let's see if we get a second.
Yes, this amendment simply says that if a short-term rental, you know, advertises on Airbnb or VRBO. I'm sorry, my mic is not on. This amendment simply says that if a short-term rental before they advertise on Airbnb or whatever social platform they have, that they have wedding events or mostly, you know, receptions, events, and we define what events are in this amendment, that they receive all of the respective, you know, they submit an application to the city and all the, you know, minutia that we have to do for events. The reason being is that a lot of these short-term rentals are in dense residential areas, and if they have a planned event, then the city will coordinate parking and spots and all that, and it just doesn't take the neighbors by surprise that there's a, you know, 100-person wedding happening next door. So it's a little lessons learned there.
Okay. Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have 2 questions on this one. One, do we require this of other event venues?
Yeah, whatever we require of events, we just want to make sure that they meet those requirements, those existing requirements, before they advertise on their social platform.
And the other question that I had is, this only goes if the venue advertises itself, or if the short-term rental advertises itself as a potential event venue. So let's say there's a home and I decide this is a great place to renew my wedding vows, but they're not advertising it as an event space. Would they still have to get any of those permits, et cetera, if I just did the event and had 100 people over for that, or?
You lost me on that one.
Let's say I just did an event. Let's say there's a place that, a short-term rental, that does not advertise itself as a potential event space, but someone just does an event there.
You know, I mean, that's whether they advertise or not advertise. If they have an event, somehow they got word out that they have a 100-person wedding going on, that they just get the required permits, whatever, from the city. If it was a perfect world, I wouldn't have to add this amendment, because it is currently the code that if you have an event, you should file an application or whatever, but that is not happening. This is definitely from experience in Ward 1. That is one of the biggest complaints, is that they hold events and the residents are like, they're fine if they knew in advance and that the parking spaces were reserved and all that, which is typically why we have all of this special event legislation, so it's followed. So this is just a guarantee that they know it's all here in this one code section, that they do get the required stuff to have the event.
You mean like they do at Bourbons and Blazers and things like that?
Yeah,
Like
exactly. It's exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's a good example. What's the other one?
Alderman O'Neill?
And I would say that part of Amendment 1 would help with enforcement of this, because if it's a nuisance and somebody next door at the Airbnb next door is having a huge party, I'm most likely going to report that, which will cause
Yeah,
a write-up. But
yeah.
if they're advertising as such, they should be.
I don't want this interpreted as don't hold the event. It's just, be cognizant of the rules as far as, reserved parking and all that. Your example of that is good, or the HA events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like we're ready to vote. Alderman Finlayson?
Well, part of our discussion had to do with whether we can legally require someone to identify their property as an event location. The whole discussion around short-term rentals came because there was a huge property in Ward 2, I believe. And it was on a dead-end street, but it was used for huge events, but private property. I don't recall how it was advertised back then, but the question is, can we require someone to identify their property as an event location because they host weddings or birthday parties or whatever? And I guess that's for Mr. Lyle.
I mean, it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because there are a lot of weddings that happen in this town. So,
I think
Mr. City Attorney.
I don't know of anything that prevents the city from requiring event venues to register as event venues or to have some other kind of regulatory approach to them. It's not there is a public health safety aspect to it, and it's not something that disturbs any notions of discriminatory action against individuals. So I don't see that you don't have the authority to do it. I think you're probably well within your authority to regulate event venues like you do restaurants and hotels, which are event venues, and have certain regulations about alcohol sales, time that they can be open, time that they can have crowds and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Who had their hand up first over here? Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So unfortunately, I don't have this amendment loaded in Granicus, and now Granicus won't let me update. So I'm kind of winging it here, but it seems to me events is much broader than short-term rentals. In fact, I do have a problem of an event venue in my ward in a Marathon building, which I need to pursue with the city. But are we talking about short-term rental events? I'm trying to figure out, because events is much bigger.
Yeah, let me just read it to you. I think we're overthinking this. The language that we're adding, see license restrictions. Number 10, the licensee, that would be the short-term renter, shall not advertise their short-term rental unit as an event venue unless appropriate applications and permits have been secured from the city. And then as far as definitions, we say that an event venue means property used for the hosting of arranged specified events such as weddings, parties, and personal celebrations. So unless appropriate applications, if there aren't anything necessary, then it's fine.
But we don't have any, I mean, I think I like where you're going with this, but what is different than renting a property as a short-term rental? Are you saying that it's a party bigger than the actual, say, 10 people that are renting? that they're having a rental for 10 people, but they're having a wedding party there that's for 50.
Right. It's like their
But
tented
see,
event.
I don't think we have that defined anywhere. I mean, I can understand why neighbors would be complaining. In fact, at my family reunion, not in Annapolis, at a short-term rental, we did have a party for friends in the area. It was a picnic. And I would assume that would have then been defined as an event. And we somehow should have advertised that or
No,
had
that's
the
not what it
short-term rental
says.
people advertise it.
No, that's not what it says. It says that a lot of these, not a lot, but these short-term rentals have a website, and they'll say that they hold events. It's a whole different shtick than just being an Airbnb. They hold events. They advertise as holding events. So instead of being under the radar, this says, whoa, wait, what, you're an event venue? Okay, did you get all you needed to get from the city? And, you know, just to make sure that they got everything they needed from the city before they advertise their short-term rental as a event venue.
So
Shall not advertise their short-term rental as an event venue unless appropriate applications and permits have been secured.
for the city attorney.
if there aren't
and the
any, then
city
they don't have to.
manager, is this something that will be refined by rules and procedures? I mean, I think the term event is
Well, I
kind
think,
of nebulous here. A wedding
well,
party,
it's defined, in
versus a
the-
picnic.
it's defined in the
Find
amendment.
it.
pardon me?
The term event is defined in the amendment.
But the numbers aren't
Well,
determined.
since I don't
right?
have the amendment, I can't say, but.
The,
Event, venue's defined, but event is not defined.
Event is defined. Oh, venue.
You know, event venue is defined. And it gives examples of, I guess, events, but weddings, parties, personal celebrations, but that's,
But I think we can trust that to our Director of Planning and Zoning to evolve. We are evolving a lot of this stuff, so we can give the parameters that you request, and it'll come back to rules. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Yeah.
As a rule, as a promulgation.
Alderman Savage and Alderman Gay?
well, I mean, I do have some concern about it. I don't want to get in the weeds with this, but, you know, just the example of personal celebrations, I don't know, because if I think I understand where you're going, and you're more focused on some of the larger events, right? But if somebody were to just say in their listing that, you know, great place to have birthday celebrations or bachelorette parties or baby showers, that could technically be in violation of this. And that's, I don't think that level of event is necessarily something you're concerned with, because the numbers are small, but the way this is worded, it's personal celebrations could be anything like that, baby shower. And that's where I don't see the harm in somebody advertising for those kind of personal events.
Substitute the word appropriate with respective. I mean, the stuff that you mentioned doesn't require, you know, permits or applications, so it's okay.
Those babies can get rowdy. I've been
I
to some of
see-
those showers.
I see what you're saying.
That's
So
true,
what,
those bachelor
what events require permits? What makes an event require a permit in our city? Because I don't even.
Usually if it involves parking, it's a big deal, you know, and they'll have to, you know, tell Felicia how many parking spaces they're gonna take up. And, whether or not they need, it depends, parking is usually a big deal. They tell, you know, Felicia is our special events coordinator, and they'll tell her how many parking spaces they need, or, you know, if we need to, you know, if there's any reason for traffic, you know, logistics or something like that, so. I mean,
Well,
it's talking about, you know, a tented event. You know, they just can't say they do tented events and then not follow any existing city regulations.
Well, I think I understand. So I'm looking up definition of special event within our chapter 1418, which is special events chapter. activity for which specific and exclusive use of public streets, so it's not going to apply to that one. Activity on private property. It's not really well defined. This looks, I mean, the way this unless I'm looking at the wrong thing, there's special event, major special event, city event. I don't know, is there a particular, I don't know.
It's advertising that's the key, right? It's if they're advertising routinely to draw in people to have an intergalactic kegger at their short-term rental.
But that's not defined
I know, that's
in our
the
code, that's
problem.
the
It's not
problem.
really defined.
That's exactly correct,
It's just
Alderman Arnett.
maybe separate legislation.
I think our current code covers it, you know, as far as what constitutes an event. This is, the stickler here is don't advertise that you're doing it unless it's legit.
Do you
That's
think
all. That's all it says.
when planning and zoning propagate the rules, could we put that into the rules
Actually,
that they
planning and
propagate?
zoning, I mean, this came up with Ogle Hall. I mean, this threw them off, you know, it's like, well, we approved a short-term rental. We didn't approve a wedding venue, you know, so that's my real-life example. So.
I do see
hence-
it as a problem, but I'm not sure that we've got it defined.
We didn't want to really get it too specific. It just, you know, usually, I mean, if they're having a birthday party, they're not going to advertise it on their Airbnb website, you know. This is.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Alderman Gay, you're next, yeah?
Thank you, because I'll start to wrap this up. You can't govern everything, and some things are out of reach of city governance, and particularly with this. And again, I think we're stretching our staff too thin to regulate and manage things that are taking place in people's personal homes and personal property, and having to have the officers come out and then communicate that with them. This is going to be a mess. And I don't think that any of it's going to be really enforceable because, again, there are greater things going on, and that when it gets down into us then trying to have to figure out if they are actual party venue or not, I'm not 100% sure.
I'm withdrawing Amendment 5. I can't deal with this.
It's not just, I'm not saying just to your amendment, I'm saying the entire process of short-term rentals in particular. I just was adding to make you feel comfortable is that.
No, I'm just withdraw it, okay? Just wait till this happens in your ward, and then maybe you'll understand. So just forget it.
It could happen anywhere, but
I know.
I mean, if you use the app or if you use any short-term rental programming, most of them are very, very strict when it comes to hosting large events, parties, etc. The host typically shut down the event. And in fact, if things get out of control, I do think that you do have a basis to stand on, because there are events where you know, kids will get the party house with the pool, and then they'll throw the party, and the cops show up. So I agree with you. I just don't know how you manage those things with the platforms.
We already have our code on events. We already have, you know, a person gets a short-term rental license for how many rooms, right? They get a short-term rental for 8, 10, 12 rooms or whatever. And this says, if before that short-term rental, you know, gets a license, it's based on, you know, occupancy, how many the house and da-da-da. So if they take an extra step and say, well, we want to hold event, or they just have it on their website that they have events, it throws planning and zoning off, because they approved a house to sleep, you know, 8 people, not 50. But if it's just a short, so they have to just at least go through the city and say, hey, you know, we're having an event, it's going to have 50 people, they're not going to sleep there, you know, we're going to need 8 spaces, blah, blah, blah. Those are all like current special event code that we have. That's all I'm asking, is that they follow existing code before they market it on their website as a wedding or something that's going to draw all those people.
So it has been withdrawn, and I
Yeah,
think
let's-
Director Jakubiec can address this, because I definitely hear where you're coming from.
Yeah,
Alderman
no,
Tony.
it's not worth the argument.
Yeah, but I think we'll still get there. I really think we can
Yeah.
get there with that. So we have 4 amendments. Is there a motion to amend O-32-23 on second reader?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Mr. Mayor, I have a question on the
Alderman Gay.
short-term rentals for either the city manager or our city attorney. Are we currently collecting, when we collect revenues from short-term rentals, is that just going to the general fund?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just curious if that could be, or a portion of it could be allocated to housing. I mean, and particularly because we know the effects of short-term rentals on the housing market. That's something I'll get into in the budget, but just was making me think as we sat here and discussed this.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion on O-32-23 as amended on second reader? Sorry.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, is there a motion to adopt O-32-23 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles,
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Shella Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderman Tierney,
Abstain.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, okay, for good order?
Oh, is it good of the order already?
What? Alderman Savage, yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you to the Rules and Government Committee, but also especially the Chair of Rules and Government, because we spent, this legislation's been in the works since 2023.
Years and years and years and years and years.
But we went through line by line on the committee, spent a lot of time. So I think we see this is probably record time that we got through any legislation on short-term rental at our Monday meeting anyway. But thank you for your work on this. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything else for good order? Alderman Tierney?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate Cynthia Reuter for making Employee of the Month. Putting up with us.
Alderman Arnett?
I wanted to thank you for the green budget.
All right, now the fun begins. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait. I had one other announcement I needed to make. This Sunday, there's going to be an EV, electric vehicle car show on Inner West Street from, what time is that? I think it's from.
No, okay, go ahead.
Don't we have something on our list?
I'm looking up the time. I think it's, oh, here it is. Thank you. So, yeah, this Sunday from 2 to 5 on West Street. It should be a lot of fun.
And the
kid activities and lots of EVs.
So we haven't signed out yet. Alderman Finlayson.
Two things. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for the support of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. They do tremendous work, not to mention the fact that my dad has been in Alpha since he was 17. He is 99 years old today. Wow. So I think he's one of the oldest living members in the organization. No, September 1st, he'll be 100. That's the first thing. And secondly, just a reminder, Saturday is the MLK parade, and I hope to see all of you joining us.
And for the public, we're going to be marching with the county. For the public, starts at 12 o'clock from Maryland Hall and makes its way down West Street, MLK Parade. We have a float, a love float. It's going to be awesome. We got a DJ, we got music. It's going to be fun. There's also the croquet this weekend, which is going to be huge. Yep, so lots and lots going on. Sorry I messed up my big finish there on the state of the city, but all in all, thank you all for your efforts here. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.